For years, people said George Pickens wasn't just a superstar in the making, he was the NFL's newest villain. Clips of him barking at fans, getting into heated moments on the field, and celebrating a little too boldly were everywhere. But what almost nobody knew was that behind all the noise, there was a story filled with pressure, expectations, and a trail of decisions that shaped how the world viewed him. A story that didn't start in Pittsburgh or Dallas, but long before that, back in a place where he looked unstoppable. And if you follow the trail from the beginning, you learn something surprising. Maybe he wasn't a villain at all.
It's probably one of the hardest decisions I'd ever make in my life. It was very hard knowing that through this whole football thing, playing my whole senior year.
Before the headlines, before the controversies, before the world had an opinion about him, George Pickens was terrorizing defenses in Hoover, Alabama. He wasn't just good, he looked like a kid playing against people who weren't ready for that kind of talent. Defensive backs tried pressing him, doubling him, shading safeties over the top. None of it mattered. He was faster, bigger, smoother. Word spread fast, and suddenly every major school wanted him. Penn State, Oregon, Florida State, Ohio State, LSU. The list just kept growing. But the biggest connection was with Auburn. Their prized five-star quarterback, Bo Nix, was his guy. The two had been locked in since high school, carving up defenses together. Everyone expected the next step to be simple. Nix commits to Auburn, Pickens follows, and the duo stays intact. Easy storyline. Predictable. Done deal. And then signing day came, and Pickens flipped the script. In one of the wildest recruiting shocks in the country, he announced he wasn't going to Auburn, he was going to Georgia. A last-minute move that left Auburn fans stunned and furious. Overnight, a kid they once praised became public enemy number one in their world. The hate was loud, but George blocked it out. He didn't care about pleasing anyone. He cared about winning, and Georgia gave him the clearest path. He showed up in Athens, ready to prove he made the right decision. And it didn't take long for that belief to explode onto the field. But what nobody knew then was that the fire he played with was the same fire that would eventually get him in trouble. It took just one game for fans across the SEC to see that Georgia had landed a monster. Against Missouri, Pickens didn't just play well, he introduced himself with two unreal touchdowns. Smooth body control, crazy hands, a swagger that made him look like he'd been doing this for years. Broadcasters said he might not stay at Georgia long, and honestly, they weren't wrong. But with talent like that comes an edge, and sometimes that edge cuts too deep. Late in the season, Georgia lined up for their rivalry game against Georgia Tech. These games don't stay polite. They're emotional, physical, and one bad moment can flip everything. And that's exactly what happened. As players tangled after a play, Pickens lost control and threw a punch. Suddenly, the season flipped. Georgia suspended him for the first half of the SEC championship, meaning their best receiver would watch from the sideline when the stakes were highest. Georgia went into that game against LSU shorthanded, and they paid the price. LSU dominated, and even when Pickens came back in the second half and caught a touchdown, it wasn't enough. He felt the weight of it, the frustration, the feeling that he let the team down. But when the Sugar Bowl arrived, he made sure the world saw the other side of him, the side that never quit. With 175 yards and a bowl MVP performance, he looked unstoppable. After the game, all he could talk about was his teammates, the offensive line, the defense, the quarterback. The love poured out of him, and it didn't sound fake. But even that redemption wouldn't stop what came next, because the next season pushed him into a storm he didn't see coming. The next year started like the script was already written. Pickens was going to dominate again. Back-to-back touchdowns against Arkansas and Auburn, explosive plays, a growing reputation as one of the most gifted receivers in the country. But talent doesn't protect you from bad decisions, especially ones made in the heat of the moment. Against Tennessee, after a play went out of bounds, Pickens squirted water at a player. It was childish, and the flag came out instantly. Commentators were stunned. Fans rolled their eyes, and slowly the whispers started, "He's got attitude issues. He's immature. He doesn't get it." Then came the injury. A midseason setback, followed by a COVID-shortened schedule, left his sophomore year in pieces. But when he came back late in the season, he delivered again. Back-to-back 100-yard games. It was a reminder that no matter how messy things got, the talent never disappeared. But the biggest test of his entire life was coming next, and it would break everything. Because before his junior season could even begin, everything took a devastating turn at practice. Right when Georgia needed him the most, and right when scouts were circling his name as a future first-round lock, everything collapsed in a single moment at practice. dangerous. No hit, no collision, just a sudden twist, and the worst news a receiver can hear. George Pickens had torn his ACL. It wasn't just a setback, it was a nightmare. The kind of injury that steals seasons, ruins momentum, and makes scouts whisper doubts behind closed doors. Headlines popped up everywhere, and rumors suggested his draft hopes were fading fast. But his mindset wasn't what people expected. He wasn't thinking about agents, projections, or draft boards. He was thinking about his teammates. Pickens said he wanted to come back just to help them win a national championship. It wasn't about personal glory. It wasn't about money. He genuinely wanted one more shot with his brothers on the field. And somehow, he made it happen. In only 8 months, a timeline that feels almost unreal, he returned. Not at full strength, not with the same explosiveness, but with the same fire he'd always carried. Georgia reached the national championship. Alabama stood across from them, the biggest stage in college football. And when the Bulldogs needed a spark, Pickens delivered one of the most iconic plays of the game. A diving catch that sent the stadium into chaos. That single moment flipped the energy, set up a touchdown, and pushed Georgia toward the trophy he chased for years. They won it. The exact dream that pulled him away from Auburn, the vision that kept him grinding through rehab, the goal he risked his future for, he achieved it. But after the celebration died down, a new decision was waiting. Should he return to Georgia and rebuild his draft stock, or roll the dice early? Pickens went with the business move, declaring for the NFL draft. But he didn't expect what happened next, and it hit harder than any injury. When draft night arrived, Pickens showed up ready. Clean suit, confidence high, and the belief that somebody would call his name early. But as the first round unfolded, receiver after receiver came off the board, and not one of them was him. 6 wide receivers went. None of them were Pickens. He wasn't angry, he was stunned. Rumors suggested some scouts questioned his energy, his focus, even his body language. Reports claimed certain teams worried about his temperament. Whether those concerns were fair or exaggerated didn't matter. They were affecting his future in real time. He went to bed that night upset but determined. Day 2 arrived, 4 more receivers were chosen. Still no call. And then finally, pick 52, Mike Tomlin. The moment his draft video hit the internet, it blew up instantly. The mean pose, the blank stare, the trolling look, people misunderstood what he was doing. Meanwhile, George was actually trembling on the phone, trying to keep his voice steady while talking to Pittsburgh. He wasn't being cocky. He was trying not to freak out. He walked into the league with something burning inside him. Not anger, but a vendetta. He genuinely felt he was better than the names drafted before him, and he didn't waste time proving it. In week 3 of his rookie year, he made one of the most ridiculous catches in NFL history. A one-handed, horizontal, gravity-breaking haul that instantly went viral. Analysts compared it to Beckham's iconic catch. Fans lost their minds, and the entire NFL finally said, okay, that's different. A 100-yard game against the Jets pushed the hype even further. But as always with Pickens, the highs came with new controversy. Against the Falcons, he was only targeted twice, and cameras caught him visibly frustrated. Media outlets ran with it, framing him as a diva, even though nearly every star receiver wants the ball. His coach, Mike Tomlin, defended him immediately. He called that competitiveness a positive. He wanted that fire on the field. Still, the narrative had already started. The same labels from college, immature, frustrated, hard to coach, followed him into the NFL. And the next 2 years would push those labels to their absolute limit. Pickens' second year was supposed to be his breakout season. Deontay Johnson went down early, leaving Pickens as the top target. And he delivered. Huge plays, deep shots, monster stat lines. But everything changed the second Johnson returned from injury. Suddenly, Pickens' production dropped, and frustration followed. The moment he posted "Free me" on Instagram, even if he deleted it fast, fans erupted. Some sided with him, others claimed he was becoming a problem. The narrative snowballed, and the media loves a snowball. Speaking of snowballs, Buffalo fans literally threw them at him during a playoff game. While he was on the sideline, while he was trying to play, the officials didn't do anything, and all that emotion he usually kept buried came rushing out. Then came the blocking controversy in Indianapolis. Pickens let up on a block, and the internet tore him apart over effort. When asked, he said he didn't want to get rolled up on, something players deal with all the time, but nobody cared. The villain storyline was too good, too clickable.
He kept fighting through it, delivering explosive plays, showcasing top-tier talent, and reminding everyone why he belonged in the league. But the fines kept coming. Celebrations, face mask moments, heated exchanges. Reports suggested rival players were baiting him because they knew he'd react, and every reaction gave the league another excuse to fine him again. By the end of the season, he had over $90,000 in fines. Fans argued about him nonstop. Some defended his passion. Others said they were done. And just when the dust started to settle, the Steelers added gasoline. They traded for DK Metcalf, and everything instantly became complicated. Because if Pickens felt overlooked before, he had no idea what was coming next. In the end, George Pickens' story was never really about being a villain. It was about growing up in front of millions of people who judged every reaction, every mistake, every moment of frustration, even when they didn't know what pushed him there. They saw the highlights, they saw the penalties, they saw the clips with no context, but they didn't see the pressure, the expectations, or the moments where he genuinely cared more than he ever said out loud. Because underneath the noise, there was always the same kid from Hoover, the one who just wanted to make plays, win games, and prove he belonged. The one who stuck by his teammates, the one who came back from a torn ACL in 8 months just to help them chase a championship. The one who played with a level of emotion that could either lift a locker room or make the world twist his actions into something else. In Dallas, something changed. The smile came back, the weight came off his shoulders. His teammates didn't just accept him, they embraced him. And for the first time in years, he wasn't fighting a narrative, he was rewriting it. Maybe that's the real story here. Not the controversies, not the fines, not the moments that went viral for the wrong reasons, but the transformation, the shift from being labeled a troublemaker to becoming the spark that powers one of the most exciting offenses in football. Because if there's one thing clear now, it's this: George Pickens was never the villain of the NFL. He was the misunderstood hero of a story that's still being written. And if what we're seeing in Dallas is only the beginning, the league has no idea what's coming next.